What's up, everybody? Andrew Macia with the Medellin Buzz, and today I'm gonna go over the process of buying an apartment in Medellin, Colombia. This was the first apartment that I bought back in 2019. When I bought it, it did not look like this at all. So make sure to watch until the end of the video where I'll give you a tour of this completely remodeled apartment. All right, so first things first, money. This video is for people that already have the cash to buy a property here in Colombia. If you don't have the cash and you're looking for a loan, as a foreigner, that's pretty difficult to do because you're gonna have to establish Colombian credit. It is possible, but it is more difficult. Make sure to hit the like and subscribe button because I will be making a video about that topic later. So the first thing that I would suggest you do when buying a property in Colombia is to find a good attorney. You want to do this even before you find the property that you want to buy for a few reasons, and we'll get into that here in a second. So how do you find a good attorney? In Colombia, a lot of people do business through referrals. So you want to join those Facebook groups of expats, of people living here, doing business, buying property, and ask for a referral. That way you know that that attorney is trusted and is vetted. If you haven't found any expat groups yet, make sure to leave a comment and I'll send them to you. Furthermore, if you're working with a real estate agent or an agency, they'll probably have an attorney on hand. Those attorneys are not going to be looking out for your best interest. They're going to be looking out for their own best interest. So you want to have your own local trusted attorney. Step number 2 is to find the property. And for me, that's the fun part. I've gone through this process 5 times here in Colombia, and finding that deal is always a rush to me. And then seeing it go from how we bought it to remodeling it completely and making it look beautiful and putting it up on Airbnb. That whole process is awesome to see. So how do you find the property? You can work with a local real estate agent, but remember, there is no real estate agent licensing here, like in the United States. So the real estate agent that you work with is just a person that has been doing this for a while, or maybe they're new. You got to vet them. Again, get a referral. But that person probably has made their own inventory, or maybe they work for an agency that sells properties. Be ready to send a lot of WhatsApp messages and not get a reply. Be ready for them to be late to appointments, etc. That being said, I've never worked with a real estate agent. I've always found my own property. And how did I find them? I initially started in the building that I lived in because I noticed that one of the units was for sale, and I contacted that owner and we were able to make the deal. And then after that, there was another unit in the same building. And then there was another building 2 blocks from here that had a sign in the window. I called it, made an appointment to go look at it, got that one, and then got to know all the other neighbors. And then there was another one for sale there, and I got that one. And for the most part, finding properties in Colombia is kind of that way. If you're working with a real estate agent, if they're not working for an agency or don't have their own inventory, they're going to be pounding the pavement to look for an apartment for you. So that's what I usually suggest to my friends and my clients that want to buy a property here, is to actually go and walk around the neighborhood that they want to buy a property in and start taking numbers down, create a little spreadsheet, start making phone calls, and start making your own comps. Because remember, there is no MLS, there is no Zillow here. There is no website where you could see what the last sold prices were for the last 6 months in a certain area like in the US. So you have to make your own comps. And that's what I usually do, is I find out what the listing prices are, and then I divide by the square meter, and I can tell you in my neighborhood what the average square meter price is, so that when something does go for sale here, I could tell whether it's a really great deal or if it's a really expensive deal. You can also do a Google search for propiedades a la venta, properties for sale in Medellin or whatever city you are in Colombia. And these sites will have pictures and prices, and you can start doing comps that way instead of pounding the pavement. But yeah, you definitely want to do both. And a little warning there, a lot of those websites are not updated frequently. So the properties that you see on there might not be available anymore. So you definitely want to hit them up, usually via WhatsApp. Email doesn't work really well here for business. It's mostly WhatsApp. If the website has a WhatsApp number, that's perfect. You send them a WhatsApp message and say, hey, I'm interested in buying a property in this area. Can you send me a list of inventory and prices? And they'll start sending them to you. Another great way to find properties is through, again, the Facebook groups. There are expat groups where you'll see real estate agents put up properties, or maybe another expat selling their property. But I don't really recommend going that route. I'd rather go through the Facebook groups where the locals are listing their properties. So again, if you go on Facebook or Facebook Marketplace, you'll find people that are listing properties in Medellin or in whatever city in Colombia. And sometimes you can find some real good deals because it's just locals listing their property for other locals, not for foreigners. When you go into an expat group and you see prices for foreigners, Those are inflated. All right, so step number 3 is the negotiation process. So once you found the property that you want to buy, you want to make an offer. And again, that initial offer can be done over the phone or through a WhatsApp message, and it's pretty informal. I've been lucky enough to find deals where the seller was pretty motivated, so I was able to get my properties for a really good price. So if you're working with a local agent or a personal assistant, make sure that you're asking poignant questions through this process, like why are you selling the property? If you can find out the reason why they're selling the property and it's a pretty big pain point, and you can resolve that by sending cash to them, they're going to be flexible. The next step is the title analysis, and this is super important. You'll want your attorney to be in contact with the seller so that he can get as much information about the property so that he can do a comprehensive title analysis. What are you going to find in that title analysis? You're going to find whether there's liens, mortgages, back taxes, etc. And this is super important because if there are issues with the property, they can be resolved. This is where the attorney, when he draws up your purchase agreement, he's going to lay out how those things get resolved. Step number 4 is to send over the purchase agreement. The purchase agreement here is called promesa de compraventa. This purchase agreement is written up by your attorney, and it states some important things. It's an agreement between you and the seller that ensures the purchase of the property. It's a contract that guarantees the buyer's acquisition of the property and establishes rules that prevents the seller from offering it to a third party. So this agreement protects both parties, and when this agreement is signed, that's usually when you're going to be paying your initial deposit. So now you have the purchase agreement signed, you've made an initial deposit, and the purchase process has started at that point. I mentioned that initial deposit, so let's talk about bringing money into Colombia. So there are a couple ways to go about this. The best and cheapest route is to have a local bank account here that you can transfer money to, and then from that local bank account, you transfer the money over to the seller. But there are a few caveats. If you're a foreigner and you don't have a local ID, it's nearly impossible to open up a local bank account. Second, if you do have a local ID and you're able to open up that bank account should have at least 6 months of history before most banks will allow the transfer to happen. Third, having a bank account but not being a tax resident in Colombia can prevent you from actually purchasing the property. So having a local bank account is not a guarantee that you're going to be able to make this happen. Again, the best thing to do is to ask for a referral to a bank or an agent at a bank that can help you set this stuff up. It's better to work with someone that's already made it happen for somebody else instead of you just walking into a bank and trying to make this happen. The second option, and the one that's most widely used by foreigners that don't have an ID or a local bank account, is to use a brokerage firm. Brokerage firms are used for stocks, bonds, mutual funds, and also used for transferring money from the United States into Colombia to buy real estate. The benefits of using a brokerage firm is that you don't have to have a local ID. Most of them speak English, so communication is easy, and the understanding of the process for you will be easier as well. You'll have a dedicated agent, so you're able to email back and forth, which garners trust and peace of mind. The downsides are that it is more expensive. Depending on the amount of money that you're transferring into the country, you may be charged more than just doing a regular transfer to a local bank account. Another downside is that it could take more time. You may be waiting 2 to 6 weeks before that account is even created. So if you're under pressure to deliver the money quickly because maybe the seller has other offers, a brokerage firm might delay all that for you. So if you're watching this video and you're ready to buy a property but you haven't found that property, you probably want to go talk to a brokerage firm, because the sooner you have that account, the faster you can transfer money. Another option for bringing money into Colombia is to transfer the money directly to the seller from your US account to their Colombian account. I always tell people that this is the last resort. It may be easy to transfer the money over, but the problem is that they control the registration of the investment to the national bank. Now, if you can get the seller to work with your attorney so that the attorney can guide them in registering the investment, then great. But some people have been screwed doing it this way because they didn't know that they had to register their investment, and the seller didn't really care and probably didn't even register the investment, and that can lead to problems in the future. So you definitely want to control that. If there's any piece of advice that I give, is to make sure that you control the registration of your investment into the national bank. Okay, so you've found your property, you've signed a purchase agreement, you've started to transfer funds. Now it's time to sign the deed. Again, this is another document that your attorney will draw up. Again, stressing the importance of having your own personal attorney. The deed is signed at a local notary. Expect to be there for a couple of hours. You'll have to pay some closing costs, which are usually 1.5 to 1.8% of the purchase price. There are a few documents that you're going to need, which your attorney should be able to handle. After signing the deed, that's where you typically get your keys. The step after that is to have the title transferred to your name, and that can take a couple of weeks. And that's the step-by-step process of buying a property here in Colombia. Of course, things can differ depending on the property and the seller and your own unique situation, but for the most part, this is a typical deal. And just another very important reminder. When purchasing a property in Colombia, there are two things that you should definitely focus on. Number one is to get a clean title. That's why it's important for your attorney to be in contact with the seller or with the seller's attorney to get as much information from them. And number two is to register your investment with the national bank correctly. All right, so now you've got your new property. Now it's time to remodel it, furnish it, and live in it or put it up on Airbnb. I'll be making separate videos where I talk about both of those things, so make sure to smash that subscribe button. Now let's get on to the apartment tour.
You're chilling in the rain. You're some kind of butterfly. Baby, you give me midnight. You whip up my appetite.